Ladies and gentlemen, Ladakh. For many of us watching the broadcast, Ladakh comes in mental memory for two things: exotic tourist destination or issues on the Indo-Tibet border with China. We have to now have a cogent, logical, sensible conversation that while in the mind space of the rest of the country, this is what Ladakh is about, there are Indian citizens, people living in Ladakh who have the same aspirations, hopes, needs, wants, better infrastructure, better education, better employment opportunities, growth for a frontier state. For too many decades, Ladakhis were playing second fiddle to the toxic politics of the Kashmir Valley. For too many decades. The creation of Ladakh as a union territory has at least given administrative clarity and discretion on Ladakh, its special hopes, dreams and aspirations separately. Now, you know, a conversation is happening in this country, rightly should, perhaps after the Lok Sabha election cycle is over, of restoring the assembly in Jammu and Kashmir, which has been the commitment of the union government that they would do so. Now you're seeing people who have been marching on the streets of Leh, enforcing a shutdown, and they're asking for, amongst other things, 4 demands, of which one of them is statehood for Ladakh. Now, Ladakh, as you know, is a frontier state. We have granted in the past statehood, full statehood, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim. I think Arunachal happened in the late 80s, 87. And good governance records have come out from those states. So there are pros, cons, deliverables, but most importantly, let us understand what the feeling is, what the hopes are, and what the needs are, and then have this national conversation. Let us present the forum for the people of Ladakh, their representatives, their leaders, their senior figures, to come and at least put the case out into the national conversation. Joining us now on the broadcast is Sterling Lakruk. He is the coordinator of and vice president of the Ladakh Buddhist Association. He's been a former cabinet minister, of course, in the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly as well. Mr. Stanzin is joining us. He is the president of the BJP in Jammu and Kashmir. Rigzin Spalbor, he's the former CEC of Leh, is with us. Sajjad Kargil is joining us. He's an activist from the region. And General Dwivedi is joining us as well, who has a deep sense of experience on the complexities of matters in frontline states. So let's put this conversation together. Mr. Lakruk, if you can hear us, for people watching across the country, sir, what was the reason for this rally, to the best of your understanding, for the shutdown, and what are the 4 core demands, sir?
आपको पता है कि लद्दाख जम्मू कश्मीर का हिस्सा हुआ करते थे। तब हम जम्मू कश्मीर असेंबली में हमारे लद्दाख से 4 एमएलए जाते थे, 2 एमएलसी जाते थे। और जब से लद्दाख यूटी बना है, यहाँ पर रियल सेंस में कोई डेमोक्रेसी नहीं है, क्योंकि जो हमारा 2 काउंसिल्स है, लेह और करगिल में, उनके पास बहुत लिमिटेड पावर्स हैं। तो इसलिए जब तक हमें लेजिस्लेटिव पावर ना हो लद्दाख में, हमारे इलेक्टेड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स के पास, तो जो पहले जो हमारा से होता था वो बिल्कुल अभी नहीं है पूरे लद्दाख में। तो इसलिए हम स्टेटहुड की डिमांड कर रहे हैं। और जो पहले हमें 370 और 35A की तरफ से जो हमें प्रोटेक्शन मिलता था, जो सेफगार्ड्स थे, वो अब नहीं रहा। इसलिए हम 6 शेड्यूल की डिमांड करते हैं। तो मेनली हमारा ये 2 स्टेटहुड और 6 शेड्यूल का डिमांड का यही वजह है।
ओके सर, आप हमें समझा सकते हैं, फॉर पीपल वाचिंग द ब्रॉडकास्ट, द 6th शेड्यूल प्रोवाइड्स for the administration of tribal areas. It is applicable currently in Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram to safeguard culture, traditions of tribals in those areas. Now, please help us understand, sir, how do you think and to whom will the matter of the 6th schedule, Mr. Lakruk, इसकी सहायता किसके लिए होगी? इसका एप्लीकेशन आप क्या चाहते हैं कि इसका इम्पैक्ट क्या हो ऑन द ग्राउंड, कि अगर एक राइट्स मिल गई फॉर प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ ट्राइबल्स, क्या प्रोटेक्ट कर रहे हैं हम?
मेनली जो सिक्स शेड्यूल के जो प्रोविजंस है हमारे इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में, वो ट्राइबल पॉपुलेशन के लिए बना है। ट्राइबल पॉपुलेशन क्योंकि मेन स्ट्रीम से अलग होता है, उनका रहन सहन वो बिल्कुल सब कुछ अलग होता है। एक तो उनकी आइडेंटिटी को बचाना है, सिक्स शेड्यूल का मतलब ही। और क्योंकि ये सारा लैंड से जुड़ा हुआ है, तो लैंड का सेफगार्ड भी सिक्स शेड्यूल में होता है। और क्योंकि लद्दाख का एनवायरनमेंट बिल्कुल फ्रेजाइल है, यहाँ का इकोसिस्टम बहुत फ्रेजाइल है, तो इसलिए इसको बचाना भी बहुत ज़रूरी है। इसलिए इन चीज़ों के लिए हम सिक्स शेड्यूल की डिमांड कर रहे हैं।
Okay, all right. So you've heard principally there are two matters of concerns. Okay, number one is statehood to provide elected representation with more power and authority than the hill councils or the lay council currently has. Number two is the sixth schedule, which is implemented in other states for the protection of tribal culture and tribal lands. There is also a demand for a public service commission, and this is not unique, it is also applicable. State boards and state cadres are different from the UPSC cadres, and they are applicable in almost pretty much all the states. So this is the rough text of what we are seeing in terms of what the conversation is. Let me get a further perspective from Mr. Sajjad Kargili. Sajjadji, if you can hear us, can you help us now understand what is the aspiration, what is the demand, what are people hoping for to their own empowerment, sir?
Thank you, Gulati. First of all, we must remember that India is a democracy. India is known for its democracy, its democratic structure, and the constitution we have. After the abrogation of Article 370, the Ladakhis they are united to demand statehood for Ladakh, just for the restoration of democracy and for the people's voice and people's representation and participation in the democratic structure. Secondly, you must be aware about the ethnic identities of Ladakh and also the geographical condition of Ladakh. We have more than 90% population who belongs to who are tribal population. Ladakh is basically a tribal region. Therefore, we are demanding the tribal status for Ladakh under the sixth schedule, so that the sixth schedule can provide us job security, cultural protection and land protection. Currently, there is no accountability at all. We are under bureaucratic rule. And LG from the center and some secretaries, they are, basically they are governing on us. And they are saying what is Ladakhi culture, there is no safeguard at all. There is no accountability at all. And the third demand is our public service commission and for job security and job safeguards for the Ladakhis.
Okay.
It has been 4 years. There is not a single gazetted post, a local gazetted officer has been recruited by the UT administration. This is the biggest failure since the inception of the UT. Ladakhis are deprived from jobs, and there is no public service commission. Three batches from Jammu and Kashmir Public Service Commission, they have already recruited in Jammu and Kashmir.
Okay, point well made, sir. Yeah, point well made. Now, so help me understand, Mr. Kargili. Now, you have obviously, many of you have come together and you have put together a list. Obviously, an exercise has already happened. Otherwise, the list would not concur. You would be saying something else, and for example, Mr. Lakruk would be saying something else. So you obviously come together and you applied your mind on what your priorities are. What is the kind of engagement? I'm being told that efforts are on by the Home Ministry now to get a delegation to interact with you. What is the kind of engagement, both from the union government and the current UT administration, that you're hoping for, sir?
Basically, the apex body and Kargil Democratic Alliance, they were being invited by the MHA, and they have formed a high-powered committee under the MOS Home, Nityanand Raiji. We went, we have, we discussed last time, but They have again scheduled the next meeting. We hope that they will fulfill our demands. And the problem is that the government is not clear whether they are giving us any, fulfilling any of our demand or not.
Okay.
That is the reason people are very much skeptical.
Okay, all right. So you require some clarity, perhaps ideally a timeline on how these matters will be addressed. Everything, of course, can't be done overnight, but it's a reasonable conversation. And as a country, we have to be able to have reasonable conversations on things that make logical sense. Yes, there is a high intensity of a political climate in the country right now. Let's not ignore it. But of course, let's not kid ourselves that there are larger issues that need to be dealt on the larger arc of history as well. Now, let me get Mr. Spalbar into this conversation. Rigzinji, if you can hear me, help us also understand. So, what do you see as the primary issue here, and how do we engage in a conversation to set timelines, to set what is possible, what is not possible, sir?
Okay, as far as the demands are concerned, these are very clear from the very beginning, and the central government is already seized of the matter. They have already been conveyed with this demand. And recently, central government asked the apex body and the KDA to give it in writing, whereas it was not required at all. Nevertheless, they have already given it in writing. The 4 points demands are almost in unanimity in the entire Ladakh region. And yesterday, with the holding of the historic, very successful Le Chalo movement and the complete shutdown of entire Ladakh, including Kargil, has sent a very strong, complete message vehemently to the central government. And now I feel the ball is lying in the central government, with the central government. And the sooner the central government comes up with a solution to this matter is the better. Because whatever demands the Ladakhis are asking for, it is not something which is out of this world. These are very genuine demand. This ultimately is going to secure, strengthen, and give empowerment to the people and the region, which is very strategic, very important part of our country.
Okay.
You cannot keep things delaying over in such a situation.
Okay, Mr. Spalbar, is this a political movement, sir? Are a lot of you aspiring politicians and therefore are conducting a political movement, or is it restricted to the 4 demands?
I may tell you, for the information of the viewers, this movement is being spearheaded by all non-political organizations like APES body, which is a body of all the religious organizations and all the political parties. Similarly, the KDA in Kargil is an organization of all the religious bodies and political parties. There is complete unanimity on it. So the leaders who are leading it, they have very good credibility in Ladakh. They have already enjoyed all the political posts. It is not as such that they are looking for some post of position. In fact, all the political parties in Ladakh, with the institution of apex body and KDA, they were on the same platform. And due to some reasons, the local BJP unit has got some reservations. But with the kind of historic, congregation and procession which we had seen yesterday, now things have become very clear.
So let's
BJP has not opposed it as such.
Okay, so let's try to reduce this to bottom lines. Things often get complex. Often they are complex, and they require to be dealt with not with naivety, but with a sense of energy and purpose. If there are people who are citizens of India, have a point to make, they should be able to make that point. Platforms like the national media should be inviting them, going out of their way to invite them to hear out their point of view, to have a conversation so a consensus can evolve, not only on what to do, but how best to get there and in what sort of time. Okay. Now, General Dwivedi, we have already come a long way. Let's not discount that. There was representation for Ladakh in the Srinagar Assembly, but it, I think, warranted only 3 or 4 MLAs worth. In an assembly of 124 seats, of which 100 were functioning, the rest, of course, being in POK, the representation was limited. It was often felt by many Ladakhis that due to the toxic nature of the politics in Srinagar itself, of the Kashmir Valley, that dominated everything, and the interests of the Ladakhis were being ignored. We've seen a tourism boom in Ladakh. I know it has environmental concerns, but that's obviously good for the economy. We are seeing a major infrastructure push to connect Ladakh. So a lot of work is going on, but there is now an overarching feeling that just like Arunachal got full statehood, Sikkim got full statehood, that the time has come for Ladakh. How do we approach this in terms of a national conversation, sir?
Well, Rishabh, first and foremost, having done multiple tenures in Ladakh and, of course, Jammu and Kashmir, in Ladakh especially, in Siachen, Chashul, Phobrang, all these areas, I deeply identify myself with the people of Ladakh. And I think the demands that have been put forward and also orchestrated by my friends on the panel are very genuine, because these demands are the groundswell. These demands are from the people. I don't think there's so much of politics in it, but it's morally for the good of the people. Now, I like to make a couple of points. First and foremost, Ladakh is strategically very important for us. And the army and the people, they bond together. In fact, I have such good memories of the people of Ladakh when they support us right up to Siachen. And their demands needs to be listened to, needs to be honored. And I think they need to have full say in the way they are governing. Second point is that Ladakh has been neglected over a period of time. It's a time that we need to give a big push to Ladakh. First and foremost, connect this region, both from Manali side and from the Zojila side, all weather roads. Secondly, the border development. And thirdly, we need to bring in a lot of institutions. Because I did my doctorate from JNU. I have met a lot of Ladakhi students. We need to have quality institutions in Ladakh. And I think, though Ladakh, area is very wide, about 60,000 square kilometers, population may be less, but it has the viability to be a state per se. And I think that should be the focus, that we need to have people of Ladakh governing themselves, then bureaucrats, then the governors, as a UT. I think this time has come. We need to now move forward and ensure that the aspiration of Ladakh people are fully honored, fully met, and Ladakh is fully integrated by all weather roads, both from Manali and Zojila.
Okay, I think so on the infrastructural front, we are making progress. So now there is a larger issue here, and all of this then has an impact on empowerment, on reflection, on integrity, okay? And we need to figure this out. Like I've said repeatedly in this conversation, these matters have been figured out because in frontline states, I gave you the example of Arunachal and in Sikkim, we have figured them out 30, 40 years ago. We have made progress in Ladakh as well, but clearly we now need to take it to the next level. Now let me get our guests from Ladakh back into this conversation. In terms of administrative priorities, let me now go on to logical and logistical priorities. Mr. Lakruk, now obviously there are larger and administrative concerns, issues that you want addressed, reforms in effect that you want the centre to implement. But in terms of the practical day-to-day priorities of Ladakhis in terms of transportation and infrastructure and food and water and education, how are things going and what needs to be the priority, sir?
अभी जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की बात है, काफ़ी कुछ हो रहा है और जुजिला टनल हमारे यहाँ के लिए ऑल वेदर रोड के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी था, वो ऑलमोस्ट कंप्लीशन पर है। तो उसके बाद से क्योंकि लद्दाख कट ऑफ रहता था 6 महीना विंटर में, वो आइसोलेशन ख़त्म हो जाएगा और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर काफ़ी ठीक हो रहा है। बाकी जो प्रॉब्लम है हमारे, वो अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट के वगैरह, वो यूटी आने के बाद उसमें कोई ज़्यादा हमें फ़ायदा नहीं हुआ, खासकर एम्प्लॉयमेंट। और क्योंकि अभी पहले सजाद करगिली ने कहा कि यहाँ पर पब्लिक सर्विस कमीशन भी नहीं है, तो बिल्कुल रिक्रूटमेंट जब से यूटी बना है बिल्कुल नहीं हुआ है गेजेटेड पोस्ट का। तो ऐसी बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं। और जो हमारे जो 2 काउंसिल्स हैं, अभी उनके पास सिर्फ जो पूरे यूटी एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को जितना फंड मिलता है, जितना बजट होता है, उसका सिर्फ 10%, 10% ही जो हमारे इलेक्टेड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स के हाथ में आता है। ये बहुत बड़ा इशू है। तो 90% जो फंड एलोकेट होता है उस पर इलेक्टेड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स का कोई से नहीं है।
Okay.
ये बड़ा इशू है.
Okay, all right. It's a point reasonably made. It makes sense. Okay, so let me get Mr. Kargili back in. Mr. Kargili, other than the issues that have already been addressed and which are administrative issues, financial issues, which are of course core to the larger development, in terms of practical realities, in terms of, as I mentioned, transportation, road connectivity, air connectivity, food, water, what are the other things that you are hoping which are better today or in the future need to be even better?
I think the local stakeholders, particularly the LHDC, should be included, should be taken into confidence before implementing any policy by the UT administration in Ladakh. They are not doing so, and often we have seen that the LHDCs were ignored. They are not being taken into confidence before implementing any such policy, and that's why the resentments are growing. Secondly, I have seen that it has been a long pending demand of the people of Kargil that the air connectivity for between Kargil Srinagar, between Kargil Jammu must be even after they have announced it under Udan scheme, the demand has not met yet. That's why there is need to be given some attention on it as well.
Fair enough.
And also our university issue, because currently there is no state university or central university functional in Ladakh. We have one university, that is University of Ladakh, which is neither a state university nor a central university, that is a cluster university.
Okay.
And they have not any recruitment body, but still they are trying to recruit posts. How they are doing, why they are doing,
then of course,
we don't know.
Okay, I think we're getting more than a full flavor of what the issues are and what need to be addressed. Sajjad ji, in a practical sense, because as a lot of people watching this broadcast who are not absolutely in tune with the issues in Ladakh, and I'm glad you're sitting with us so that we can educate a lot of people. We've seen from the outside, we see a tourism boom happening in Ladakh. A lot of people are traveling there, okay, and we assume that is, bringing in is better for the economy. What is better today, sir? That how are some parts better? And of course, you already raised what parts which you need to have improved.
Like Lagruk Sahib has rightly said that the road infrastructure has been improved, and we have seen the road connectivity and the road network across Ladakh is, any person from Ladakh can travel any place in Ladakh. That's because of the better road connectivity in the region. Secondly, but there is a lot to do. We need to do a lot in future also, like the people are demanding the road connectivity between Turtuk, Khano, between Panikhar, Pahalgam, Zanskar, Pahalgam, Kishtwar area, and also Dras, Gurez roads. These are the regional roads which need to be connected. And we hope that the UT administration and the government of India will take some steps towards it as well.
Okay. One quick question, sir, before I get Mr. Spalbar back into this conversation. Sajjad ji, for local Ladakhis in the repopulation of border areas, both on the Indo-Tibetan border and along the LOC, how keen are people? Is it the concentration? Do people are they looking for better facilities in Leh, for example, or are people looking forward to reviving tribal areas, grazing areas, and other things?
You must have seen recently our people in Ladakh, they have confronted PLA. Such kind of people you can see everywhere in the border areas of Ladakh. So even our Prime Minister, he also used to say that हम अपने देश के आखिरी गांव को अपना पहला गांव समझ करके चलते हैं. If that is the feeling, then the facilities must be provided to these regions, particularly the people of Chushul, Changthang, and also the Turtuk, Takshi area, and also the Dras, Batalik, and these regions, the Hundurman, Kaksar, Badgam areas. These are the border areas which need attention, and there are some programs like they have already announced a program for the border regions, but that program must be extended to other border regions as well, which are connected to Pakistan.
Okay, let me get Mrs. Spalbar into this conversation. Mrs. Spalbar, like I said, now we have a broad understanding of the logic and the nature of demands. Obviously, it will be useful to have a university in Ladakh, so young Ladakhis don't have to travel outside their native state. to be educated. Beyond that, the practicalities of day-to-day living, I'm assuming tourism has improved, so some of the people involved in the tourism sector would have benefited. But on things like transportation, electric connectivity, water connectivity, how are things looking, sir, and what are the areas which need to be worked on?
The major issue which we are discussing today is about the aspirations and the concerns and the worries of Ladakis, It is true that in the wake of the formation of the UT, physically things are changing. But then rightly pointed out, General Saab, that too far long Ladakh has been neglected. Had we not done that, we would not have lost Aksai, we would not have lost so many land of ours due to Chinese incursion. Because people were not empowered at all. I wish UT was granted many years ago with the empowerment of the local people as such. So no amount of physical aspects is going to, fulfill the aspirations of the people as far as their land, environment, fragile ecology, and the unemployment issues of the youth, and all the empowerment of the people in politically also, democratically also. Why not? When the locals have no say in managing the 90% of the allocation which comes from the central government, how do you expect it to be democratic and fair? There has to be decentralization, which there were more powers at the border with the people, because history is to witness to the fact that no amount of soldier, army and tanks can secure a border unless and until you secure and empower and decentralize power to the people of Ladakh.
Okay, I could not agree with you more. That's a fundamentally correct statement. So, Mrs. Paulbor, I have a further question for you before I leave the last word with General Dwivedi. In terms of at least the creation of the UT, which means that the bifurcation, because you know that the politics of Jammu and Kashmir and the issues there of the Kashmir Valley often hijack the Ladakhi issues. At least is that the step in the right direction? Now it's about converting the UT into statehood.
Exactly. Ladakh had been a full-fledged independent kingdom earlier on. It was kept at the plate of the Kashmiris. They merely used it as a bargain chip with the central government. When it can be a full-fledged independent kingdom once, why not a full-fledged state? Now, it has the full right. It has 60,000 square kilometers. There are states which are just 10,000 square kilometers. So it is very much deserving. It goes to strengthen the government, the India. It is very important.
Okay.
The aspirations of the people are fulfilled at the earliest.
All right. So, General Dwivedi, now we seem to have a cogent. And the reason I'm using the word cogent is that this is not a vague itemized hope. This is a very cogent thing, and some of it is very practical, and I don't think any of us, any right-minded person can find a disagreement that there should be a recognized central university in Ladakh, that Ladakhi students should be able to study in their own home turf rather than travel to other states, that there should be recruitment of a public service commission. So you have local Ladakhis, that they should have a greater say in financial allocations. And of course, all of this moving towards a conversation on statehood. How do we take this conversation forward, sir? I'm sure the government is going to be doing its bit, but as a country, how do we take the conversation forward?
I think, Rishabh, Ladakh is our national priority because a number of reasons, that they are actually the front guardians of our borders, and without people you can't defend. It's people and the army together which forms the synergy and which gives that power. Second point is that people have to empower. It's, after all, democratic system means empowering the people at the grassroots level. If people have no say in the development, then that development will be lopsided. And I have seen in other states, like when I was deployed in Arunachal, in Sikkim, that until you bring the people into the governance cycle, the governance will be all lopsided. And my third point is, as I brought out about the university, we need to give a lot of emphasis on education, on health, and basic infrastructure, because until we get the employment, until we get the youth into the employment cycle, nothing will work out. So my considered request to the authorities is, give highest priority to Ladakh. Forget the politics. We need to make, because it is strategically so important. We cannot defend Ladakh when the people of Ladakh are protesting on the roads. So therefore, we must take a call, and this call must be urgent call, that we need to address the grievances of the Ladakhi people, give them the due, give them the statehood, give them the empowerment. Only then we can secure the Ladakh per se from the Chinese aggression, which is looming large.
Okay, I'm out of time in this particular conversation. Okay, but to the guests who have joined us from Ladakh, in many parts, part of putting together what the hopes and dreams and aspirations on behalf of the people that they represent. I appreciate the clarity and the logic with which you are approaching this. I want to, in my small part at least, assure you, and especially if somebody is watching this telecast from Ladakh, that we will now break this up into issue by issue, matter by matter, university, employment, development, empowerment, finances, and have more such conversations. So there is a platform for this conversation to continue until logical things can happen after concerted thought is happening. I'm pretty confident, in fact more than confident, that the government of the day will be seeing this with the same practical logic and alacrity of action, which is what the government of the day is known for, of getting things done quickly. There are legal complexities to, of course, certain matters, but I think if we put our minds to it, there's nothing that can't be done. I really appreciate your time, for all of you, for joining this telecast. This will not be the last one. We'll come back again and again, and I'll try to do it issue-wise so that we can go deeper into issues and not just have a generic conversation. But the first one had to be an overarching picture.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.